Well, my name is Hugo Eckseler. You got me. I have founded 9 years ago the personal agency TalentNet. I did it together with Jana Bormann, who is over there. Wave your hand. She will be around also in the roundtable discussion there. We are currently 15 colleagues based in 2 offices, one in Cologne, not far away from here, and the second one is in Bern in Switzerland. Before I created my own business together with Jana, I have been for many years with international companies in management positions for production, for supply chain management, quality, and others. And in my last assignment at Deutsche Post DHL, I had the job to, well, I would say, develop and lead a global procurement organization covering more than 150 countries, so it was really a very fascinating job, I can say. I'm very pleased that Marc Scholten, standing beside me, agreed to have this presentation here today with me. And Marc is the, I will say some more about that, the Chief Procurement Officer at Currenta, a client of us, with whom we just finished the first phase of a project aimed at improving the fitness of the organization for the future. Marc, would you please introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Hugo. And sorry, I'm the only guy in this room, I think, who is coming from procurement. So I'm the guy with procedures and policies and all this kind of stuff, yeah. I heard the comment in the speech before, so yeah. No, my name is Marc. Like Hugo said, I'm working for Currenta. I think Currenta is not really a familiar name for you. Maybe a few words about this. We are really a classical industrial company. We are operating a chemical park infrastructure in the northwestern part of Germany, and 2.4 billion revenue, 5,000 people roundabout. And classically, what we are doing is we are producing energy, we are producing steam, we are producing cooling and a lot of other services for our clients across our sites. And we are also in a transformation as organization, because we are, like I said, a classical German traditional company. Yeah, you see, I'm very classical dressed today. Yeah, so we're representing this style, and we are establishing also a new culture. Yeah, and things addressed in the topics before. I'm doing the same in my organization. That's the reason why I joined Currenta, to modernize the procurement team. And so I'm in an ongoing transformation process so far. And before Currenta, I worked for also some other larger organizations. I worked for Siemens. I worked in Switzerland for the Swiss Co-op Group. I worked here in Frankfurt in the aviation industry, Deutsche Lufthansa. And I've done in all these organizations the same things. Yeah, reorganization, the procurement functions. And I made one sidestep in my career. And that's the reason why I'm really happy to be here today, beside of our joint project. I was also responsible for a HR function in a mid-sized company a couple of years, managing also a turnaround situation and focusing on leadership development. And therefore, yeah, it was really useful for me also to get back to the roots here, to see, and it's all about people. And that's also my statement. And I will come to my use case later on, where this is also a point. So back to Hugo.
Marc, thank you very much. So it's obvious that we both obviously have a very strong footprint in procurement. So I guess will not be surprising for you that we focus in our presentation pretty much on procurement. But I think we can say that a lot of our findings can be transferred easily also to other functions, and maybe we can discuss it later on in the roundtable. Yeah? Having said that, let's move on to the actual topic of our presentation. Society, economy, and industry are going through turbulent times. which we have not seen for decades. The flood of negative news on wars and frightening, I would say, political constellations around the globe make it difficult for many contemporaries to look ahead with confidence. At the same time, many companies have to reinvent themselves in order to keep up in light of digitization and artificial intelligence. In such times, it is more important than ever to have people who are willing to break new ground with competence, courage, and enthusiasm. A statement that probably everybody here in this room would subscribe to. But what have companies to do to make that vision reality? We would like to explain in our own presentation, here, what we believe is key to identify and to develop top talents based on our research projects that we have gone through over the last years and our discussions with experts from industry. We have condensed the content of these comprehensive reports of the scientific studies to 4 checkpoints which are critical in the race for talents. Job descriptions, secondly, competence profiles, thirdly, assessment and feedback, and finally, state-of-the-art recruiting practices. Checkpoint number 1, job descriptions. Job descriptions have to be systematic, comprehensive, and specific. In order to meet these requirements, it is helpful to cluster a collection of jobs into job groups. Many people call them avatars. Let me give you an example. In a procurement organization, there are typically various strategic buyers who buy raw materials, production equipment, marketing and media services, and so on and so on. So what they buy differs. At the same time, they have a lot in common, the way how they run their jobs. It makes sense, therefore, to create one avatar for all these strategic buyers, which covers all common aspects and adjust for the rest as necessary. Our experience shows that even in a large procurement organization, you do not need more than, let's say, 10 to 12 avatars. Would you agree?
Absolutely. 11.
Well, I think it's obvious to everybody that this helps to reduce complexity and to bring structure to a procurement organization which is active around the globe. Avatars help to establish a common understanding of tasks and responsibilities across countries, across business units, across global, regional, and local buyers. Without such a standardization, it's impossible to communicate and establish a global procurement strategy. Job descriptions have to be updated and communicated on a regular basis. Some of you may say that goes without saying. Well, reality is often different. Job descriptions are not available, are not complete, are not adjusted to major organizational changes, or the incumbent has even never seen his job description. This is indeed what we experience in our daily work. And finally, and I think that's important for the HR world, for the HR community, job descriptions are the basis for the entire HR management cycle, from recruiting, internal and external, onboarding, annual performance and behavior appraisal, all the way down to career planning and training and development. So let's move on to the next checkpoint, competence profiles. The question, which competencies are needed in the future, has gained increasing traction over the last years, driven by discussions about digitization, new disruptive technologies, as well as the climate change challenges hanging all over the scene. There have been numerous articles in professional journals as well as roundtable discussions on the topic. However, it became obvious very soon that the multitude of individual solutions did not lead to a coherent competence model that was really usable for HR management. This is why we started a research project in 2020 with 3 universities, including the University St. Gallen in Switzerland. The aim was to develop a comprehensive and systematic competence model that covers technical, professional competencies as well as personal and social aspects. The first step was an empirical survey involving more than 200 expert managers from medium-sized and large companies, including automotive, energy, financial services, healthcare, and many other industries. The question was, which competencies the participants of the survey regarded relevant for the future. So it was not the view back or just at the current situation, but what do we need in a 2 to 5 years' time? Based on their input, a comprehensive competence model was developed in a series of master theses. The results are displayed here in the spider web on the right-hand side, starting at the top with strategy, governance and compliance, organization and processes, category, supplier management, business acumen, meaning what do people have to understand regarding the business of the stakeholders and the company. We talk about methods, systems and tools, controlling and risk management, and finally leadership. So on the right-hand side, you find the topical 7 components or competencies that procurement needs in total. Now, we move on to the left-hand side. No, that's wrong. And here you find the 5 social and personal skills, which are very important from the view of the participant for the future. It starts with, no surprise, networking and team skills, influencing and achieving impact, recognizing and solving problems, result orientation, and finally, what we heard before already in other presentations, the willingness and the ability to learn and change. I should mention that as well. For all of these 12 components of the model, you can define the grade that is required to perform the future role between 1 meaning it needs basic skills, up to 4 standing for, well, he's or she is a perfect person in theory as well as in occupational practice. Critical checkpoint number 3 in the race for talents, assessments and feedback. As shown in my last chart, the target profile has been identified. Now, as you can see here, it's a gray area more or less in the middle. So we know which competencies the stakeholder or these stakeholders will need in the future to perform their roles. The next step is now to determine the current abilities of the employees from his own perspective, the self-assessment, so to speak, and secondly, from the view of his supervisor. For this purpose, we have developed an online tool at TalentNet by which employees can assess themselves with regard to the 12 components of the target profile. It's a simple procedure guided by clear instructions that takes about, let's say, 60 minutes. The same is done by the supervisor, also online, but always in the same structures, referring to the same components. The results of the assessments are summarized here in the spider web. The underlying target profile in gray. The yellow line presents the results of the self-assessment, and the blue line is the assessment of the supervisor. It's a sample, of course, here. It's obvious that in this ensemble, the target profile, self-assessment, and the view of the supervisor do not match in all points. And you can see it, for instance, here. Let's get started with business acumen. The target profile requires a relatively high understanding of what the business needs. You see here the blue line and the yellow line are significantly below that requirement stated here. You see another topic, networking and team skills. This is a target profile here. It's at a level of 3. The incumbent here says, I'm much better. I'm on level 3.5, whereas the supervisor says, well, significant below. Take another one here at the top, willingness to learn and change. There, these assessments are relatively close by each other. So what does that spider now provide to us? It provides a differentiated picture of the professional and personal competencies of the feedback recipient, and thus creates a solid basis for structured and constructive discussions between employee and supervisor for career and development planning with regard to the future role. And we all know how important that kind of feedback is. We heard it before, because learning and positive behavioral change depend crucially on knowing where you stand and where you need to develop, where you need to improve to cope with future challenges. Well, more details we can discuss, I think, at the roundtable later on. So, I will hand over to you.
Okay, back to me. Thank you. Probably it gets a little bit more practical now, because I'm talking now about the use case behind and what is my experience with the tool and the procedure Hugo explained. And allow me to give you a little bit background about what is this certain situation in my organization. Yeah, like I said, a traditional company, and the transformation journey I'm managing at the moment started in 2022, a little bit earlier than I joined the company. And what has happened? We combined 3 different teams from different parts of the organization into one central procurement function, and set it up as some kind of a business support function, like other classical commercial departments in the same way. But we have done this without any change support. Yeah? We're just taking people, bringing from one place to another place and say, here you are now, that's your job, do it. Yeah? All of you are smiling, you all know what will happen. Nothing will happen. No change in behavior and so on and so on. So I joined 6 months later, and I had a look on the organization and run a classical organization analysis in the first months. And in the discussions with our managing board, we had later on the idea, okay, we need to do something fundamental. Yeah, our target is to modernize the organization. That has two aspects. One aspect is that this combined team can grow together and act as one team. Yeah, and the second aspect is to change the perception of procurement in the entire organization. But so far, procurement is just at the end of the process. We are fulfilling orders, and that's not the idea of a modern procurement organization, from my understanding. And so basically, therefore, we created a transformation program. We call this One Procurement. One has this both aspects I mentioned before as some kind of a framework. So, and in the beginning of 2024, we started with external help. I had some budget for consulting support, to be honest, yeah. But nevertheless, we started the journey. We set up over the first 3 quarters of 2024 a new target operating model for the procurement team. We defined the complete process landscape from top to down on 4 levels, yeah, completely new. And we also defined the first round of job descriptions. And that's exactly the point Hugo mentioned. Yeah, we had this technical job descriptions, very nice, smart to read, and everybody would agree and say, yeah, that's cool. Yeah. At the end of the day, there was a point where we entered together in a process with a colleague from you. Yeah. Very smart, to be honest. I keep it short because we can discuss this later if you like. But nevertheless, what we have set up is a process about handing over these documents, process descriptions, job descriptions, and so on to your colleague. He had 2 weeks roundabout, yeah, to work and to get familiar with this. Then we had the first workshop, 6 hours, where we created these avatars. He has gone back, yeah, again, some pre-work, and then we had the second workshop. And in the second workshop, we finalized the competence profiles. And the interesting thing now comes now, the feedback loop between the competence profile developed in the systematic, linking back to the job descriptions we had before, has brought the whole systematic on a complete another level. And that was interesting to see at the end of the day. So, and basically at the moment where we have these results. I'm preparing now the go live of the new organization that is foreseen for now in the next couple of weeks in the first quarter. And the assessment phase, Hugo mentioned, yeah, is the next step after the go live. Then we will enter into the assessment phase, building up a complete training concept and to move on and to develop the people at the end of the day. Because it's right, people always matter. Yeah, and that's the most important factor here. Thank you.
Thanks to you, Marc. And that brings us to the last chart, state-of-the-art recruiting practices. And yeah, just a few comments on the situation we find in our projects with our customers. First of all, top talents expect personalized communications. The classic job ad with its stereotypical statements no longer attracts top talents. Mass communications and standard emails can have the opposite effect and come across as impersonal. We just talked, Jana and myself, this morning about this topic. What is the solution? Catch the eye of your target candidates and spark their interest with extraordinary, humorous job postings. Good pictures are noticed by readers much faster than long texts. This is an example here of an ad that we published for one of our customers on social media. It is short and snappy with a picture individually designed for this case here. Which hopefully makes the viewer curious to find more by clicking on the ad. In this case, our job was to fill the 3 vacancies we had at one of our customers. So what we what the team said, well, let's illustrate that situation by using the allegory of the three holy kings from the Bible. I think it's clear to everybody what is seen here. So creativity is called for, and artificial intelligence, by the way, can help you a lot by creating such nice graphics like the one you see here. If you are interested in hearing more about that, I think Jana can give us some more information, what we do there, and how we also have started to use AI for this purpose. Second point, employer branding. In a competitive labor market, of course, you need a strong employer brand. Good talents, good applicants not only want a job, they want to be part of a company with a positive corporate culture and clear values. And top talents seek, of course, creative latitude and hate micromanagement. This is what we experience every day. But sooner or later, even the most polished employer branding campaigns will fail if reality speaks a different language. Potential candidates read the reviews on Kununu and often maintain a very good personal network to colleagues also in other companies. At Telenet, to say that also, we feel responsible to engage in open discussions with customers as well as candidates in order to actively manage expectations and create a solid basis between both for future cooperation. Speed and agility. Well, the labor market, we heard that already a couple of times, has shifted over the last year and before. And of course, this changed also the willingness of candidates to move. It's certainly higher than some years ago. But it's extremely important what we see, and I heard it already again this morning. It's extremely important that companies react fast and agile. This does not yet have sunk in all companies, I have to say. It is not uncommon for application documents to be left in a holding pattern for weeks without any response to candidates. The reasons given often reveal a fundamental dilemma that was also brought up already this morning. No time in the departments, including the HR department, due to a flood of application documents that they have to process. Or simply also sometimes, it's my impression, due to the lack of awareness of the economic damages that can be caused in a company by keeping an open position open for a longer time. Finally, hire for attitude, train for skills, a statement that you probably already heard a couple of times. I think it's absolutely right, this statement. The world's knowledge doubles every 2 years. The half-life of acquired knowledge and skills is getting shorter and shorter. Employees and managers are confronted with dynamic and unpredictable challenges. In this VUCA world, personal and social skills are becoming more and more important, especially the willingness and ability to engage in lifelong learning. This look ahead must be reflected in personal diagnostics, interview guidelines, and selection procedures. Well, let me conclude our presentations with a short video clip. Thanks for listening.